It's Pete Cohen. It's episode 4 of Pete and Patty's Powerful Particulars podcast with me, Pete Cohen, and someone you're going to be hearing from in a few seconds. There she is. She's cheering me on. Get ready for another game-changing podcast. Today's podcast is called Mastering Mastery. Patti, it's episode 4. It is Pete and Patty's Powerful Particulars podcast. How are you?
Oh my gosh, Pete, I'm fantastic. How are you?
I am. I'm really in a great space. I'm very excited about lots of things that are going on right now. I think now we've really kicked into 2019, and today's podcast we're talking about mastering mastery. Patti, tell me, what does that mean to you? This whole concept of mastery.
Well, I think whenever you do anything in the world, sometimes you come into it thinking, oh, I don't really know how to do that. So you want to set yourself up for success, understanding that it takes time to master something. Mastering it means to do it to the best of your capability and to continue to improve yourself every day to get to that point.
Yeah, it's definitely a subject that I became really interested in maybe last year, maybe the year before. I remember just hearing someone talk about it and just saying, look, it's a big issue in the world today because a lot of people frown upon people getting better at things. You know, if you're the sort of person who, I don't know, meditates every day, or you're the sort of person who's constantly trying to improve themselves, I think people think it's weird. And I remember hearing that and thinking, yeah, it is a bit weird. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think people don't understand that things in the world where everything happens instantaneously, that's what's happening in the world we live in right now, right? So you want to find out some information, you YouTube it, right? You want to find out where something came from or even what the word mastery means, you can Google it and it'll give you a Wikipedia definition of it. And so it makes it hard for you to understand that for you to get better at things or to be good and competent at things, it sometimes takes time. And I think that is why people frown upon the idea that you have to master something, because they think that, well, you should just be able to go and do it, which I'm in all fours on that. I really agree that you should just go do it. But sometimes you really want to understand the ground that you're in. Like my dad, okay? Take my dad for an example. My dad was a concrete expert. Literally, he worked with cement and chemistry to come up with the best concrete chemicals in the world, right? But it took him a long time to get to that place. And when we cleaned out his house after he died, there were hundreds of concrete samples, these little cylindrical things there. But at the end, he got this Lifetime Achievement Award for his contribution to the field of concrete.
Yeah.
To me, that's mastery.
Yeah, it is really a really interesting subject. And I'd love us to be able to explore that today and give people a different perspective.
Now, what's it mean to you, though, Pete? I'm curious. You asked me, what's mastery mean to you?
Okay, well, the first thing I'm going to do is ask Siri. What does the word mastery mean?
Comprehensive knowledge or skill in a particular subject or activity.
So he says comprehensive knowledge or skill in a particular area. I think that for me personally, it means getting better at something that you enjoy doing, and I personally believe that we all want to get better at things, but as you pointed out right there, we seem to live in a world now where the application of getting better at things is not like what it used to be, because people can, an overnight success can happen quickly for a lot of people. But really, when you look at people who we most admire, I mean, for me personally, growing up, the people who I most admired, they were masters of their art. They didn't just wake up and find themselves extremely talented at something. They worked extremely hard. I think that when we look at people like that, we think they are just just really gifted rather than, Malcolm Gladwell, who's very well known in that whole field of, 10,000 hours to mastery,
Yeah.
which actually is 1,250 days, and that's 24 hours. So, imagine working 24 hours a day for 1,250 days to really be masterful at something, whether that's true or not. That's a lot of dedication towards something. And,
Yeah.
I do think, though, that most of us like the idea of getting better at things, but the reality is it's boring, for a lot of people getting better at something.
Yeah, I think because it takes a lot of work. And, before the call, I was looking at to see what would I find how to master anything. And there were 8 tips, and I thought they were all interesting. One was know you want the skill first. So don't just try to master something you're not interested or passionate about.
Yeah.
The second was start practicing and practice a lot. I mean, everybody thinks about these stars, music stars. They've been practicing a long time. There are hundreds of thousands of hours that go into them being great before they even get on that stage and get discovered.
Yeah.
The third thing was analyze, 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 target your weak spots, obsess over it, start teaching it, immerse yourself in a supportive environment, and seek out mentors. And I think these things are really good. That's a good overview of what it takes to master something. But I love that one at the end, don't you? The one about mentorship, because I think no matter how far you are in your career, to mentor and be mentored by people is one of the greatest gifts that you can have.
Well, you are one of a few people in the world that inspired me to get better at what I do. And I need people like that. It's almost like I'm in competition with you. And that was something I've been talking about recently, because that word for a lot of people makes them go, what? What do you mean? That's unhealthy. No. I want to be in competition with you, not against you.
Right.
And I realized that, that I need to get better at certain things. And there's a guy called Russell Brunson, who many people know in the social media world. He's very well known for funnels and, getting someone into a funnel through your website. And he's a genius. And I heard him talk about something. It was really got to me. He said that he only reckoned that 2% of people are interested in improvement, actually interested in improving for the sake of improving. And I thought, if that's true, I like to think I fall into that category. I would just find myself improving at something. It doesn't necessarily have to go anywhere.
Right.
But if that was true, would you say that you're in that 2%? You just
yes, I definitely am, because somebody said to me, learning how to edit those videos and all that, you can hire someone to do that. And I thought, but then I wouldn't understand that skill. I wouldn't understand the benefit of it. I wouldn't understand how to use Slack or, Trello or all of these things that you can use that are tools. And I think that learning that growth mindset, really, that is the key to keeping yourself vibrant and alive and able to be flexible enough to, flexibility, I think, in the mastery world is important, because yes, you have to sit down and you have to work to understand, and you have to record the podcast or do whatever you do, but you also need to be able to be willing to change your direction so that you actually see and achieve mastery across a number of things that are all in your same stream of what you're working on. You need to know the full gamut of it. And that takes work. And I can see why people give up, honestly. And, 1 in 10 people make change happen. 1 in 10, right?
I believe that I think one of the challenges that people have around that is the whole perfection thing, that if you're striving for perfection, you're going to struggle because you won't be flexible. Like you said, it's so important to be flexible. And, before we came on, you started talking. I said, Patti, hold fire on that, because we should discuss this. Because if that was true, that 98% of people are not interested in self-improvement, they better have something that they are fired up about working on and creating. Otherwise, they will just give up.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think, too, what were you going to ask me? I'm sorry, Pete.
No, that was it. I mean,
well, I was going to say, and I think for some people, like, okay, so the guy comes to put the Comcast, the cable into my office out here yesterday. And so I asked him, of course, like, what are you interested in? What do you want to do? Because I know he doesn't want to work for infinity for the rest of his life, right? That's not his career. That's not his goal. And he said, I don't know. I just can't figure it out. And I said, well, what are you passionate about? He said, well, I love to snowboard and I love to go and hear music. I love being in clubs and having that experience. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, within that band, I gave him like 5 contact names, go to Vail Resorts. They're always hiring, figure out how you can help to promote the band that's coming into town. See if you want to be that kind of an agent. But, I think that's part of it is that's the way our minds work. We're always looking for the opportunity that's within the passion. Right.
I must tell you, when you just said that, something really kind of woke up inside me because, the amount of times I would speak to someone like that and you'd give people the opportunity or a different perspective or try and open some doors for them. But often the resistance that comes up, I think the fear that comes up. And, let's imagine that person said, oh, thank you, Patti. And they went home. And they were told their partner, you know what, I've met this person and I'm going to change my career. The person will go, what? No way. This is who you are. This is how we live. This is how we survive. And I think we are victims of our environments. And I think a lot of the time, if we decide to change, other people are massively threatened.
Intimidated by it. Yeah, they're intimidated by it. And I think, okay, so it's much easier than, so let's say you have your day job, but you're secretly passionate about whatever it is, rockets, rocket ships and rocket science. And so at night, you're working this thing to understand, like, what is the science behind it? And how could I make something happen? And how can I, create a blast off experience? But during the day, you're doing this other piece of work, which is the thing that, fills your pockets until you can shift over. I think what happens is that as you learn to master what it is that you want to do, the enthusiasm and the energy gives you enough drive that you realize this other thing is not going to work anymore.
Yeah.
So until you begin this other thing and work towards mastery of that, this other part of your life, the one that is sometimes providing but very boring and dull, it won't take precedent.
Yeah.
And so how do you, part of what I wonder is, for you, Pete, like you're a master of speaking, you're a master inspirator. That's how I think of you. You're a master inspirator. But how did you get to be that? Like, what were the steps? So if somebody's listening, they wonder, hey, like I want to master something too.
Yeah.
How do I do it? I want to master my mastering.
You ask great questions, and because we do similar work, and you ask a question. That's often what you get people to go inside their own brains and think about it. I've learned so much from you, and I will answer that question. I don't want to just throw it straight back, but I spent huge amounts of my life moving away. I didn't think I was good enough, and I wanted to prove to the world that I was good enough. So my drive was to move away and to prove and wanting recognition. And I think lots of people are like that. And
for sure. When I was an actor, that was my whole reason for doing it.
Really?
Yes. I loved acting, but I knew it was what the audience thought about me or what people thought about me. That's why I had to leave that field, because when I got to a place where I realized their feedback is not as important as how I feel about myself, then I was able to shift from taking in to giving out.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you've had that same experience. I think the question I really, really didn't resented, and I felt like a fraud, was when people started saying to me, where do you want to be? I remember someone specifically saying, okay, where do you want to be in 5 years' time? And I just thought, you know what? I've not got an absolute clue. I do not know. I know where I don't want to be. And where do you want to be in 3 years' time? I was going, I've still got no clue. Where do you want to be in 1 year's time? And then I'd make up this lie that basically, hey, you don't need to think that far ahead, and just keep doing what you're doing. And I mean, I'm not speaking for everyone because I don't know everyone, but I do see when we see the best in people, it's because we are inspired about where we're going and what we are doing. And, as I look up on my
Oh,
wall here and, what you've helped me create and the work that you do, you've helped me be bold enough to dream and say, so I know where I'm going and I know what I'm doing, that it makes mastery so much easier. I'm not saying it's always easy. I can find excuses, things get difficult. I've been speaking for 30 years and I had a couple of bad reviews and that hit me hard. But then
yeah.
I thought, I want to be so much better. What can I learn from this? I just want to learn. I just want to get better.
Yeah. And so I think that's key to mastering mastery is this piece that you realize that it's not like a plateau you hit and then, oh, I'm the master. Like actually, I was in the room with a really well-known speaker, a change person, and he was so mean to everybody, including me in the room. I thought, I'm not going to consider him a change master anymore because that's, part of mastery is being humble enough to know that you always have something to learn and
Yeah.
that everyone in the room, whether they have your span of knowledge in a particular area, they have something to teach you. And I think that's what mastering mastery is about. You have to get yourself motivated and B, know where you're going and start to work that, like you can't lay in bed and just daydream about it. That is one part of it, but it's not the whole deal. You have to get up and do stuff. But the second thing is as you grow in your career and become better, you have to learn that it's not all about you. And when you get that, I think that's when you really begin to mastering mastery. Like my father, he never stopped teaching people who were just coming into the field about how to make the best concrete and how to analyze it to see whether it was a deep crack in that driveway or a shallow one, And I think that's part of it.
Well, I know we've probably spoken about this on previous podcasts, but this guy who won the Nobel Prize, two people that won the Nobel Prize, one who won it in 1972, and he's basically was saying that there's too much information in the world, and that's the biggest problem. I mean, 1972, what was there? Encyclopedias, libraries.
That's right.
So, we're on this road to getting better at things, and then we're hit with this thing every single day of impulsivity, delay, which we just put things off because we've got too many choices. And then the guy that won the Nobel Prize in 1937, who won it twice, a Hungarian guy, was basically saying, look, we're only here for one reason. We're only here to grow, to get better. We want to grow. We want to get better. And I see that there are so many people struggling in the world because of there's too many choices. You don't know what to do. You don't know who to follow. And there's so many people shouting and in the space maybe that you want to be in. Plus, deep down that you want to grow and get better. And you're not in an environment that supports that. You may be in a job that you don't really enjoy. Your partner doesn't want you to start, meditating every single day because they don't want to see you grow.
Or messing up the income so that they might have to go and work harder, right?
Yeah, but then if we look at it from the other point of view is when are we most alive? This is one of the things I love to ask people. When are we most connected? When are we most excited? And, I heard someone say this, happy people always have projects.
Yeah.
But people who have something more, it's not that they're better, it's that they've got a quest. My quest is, as you know, this year more than any other year, is to inspire people, with the book coming out called Inspirators. It's about people who are inspired and who want to inspire others. Patti, tell us what your quest is. What gets you out of bed in the morning? What is it that you are here to do that makes you want to get better at what you do?
Well, I think, Pete, really, when my dad was in his 50s, they glass ceilinged him in his career. And maybe I talked about this before, but it was very, very difficult. He came home, they said, they told me that I could keep my job, but they'd never promote me and they'd never give me another raise. And he said, so I'm going to quit. And my mother was, thrilled about it because she felt like they had really kept him down in that job. And so Then a couple weeks go by and my mother rings, gets a glass and spoon on the side of it. Ding, 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 ding. Your father's going to open his own consulting practice. And I was like, oh my God, that is fantastic. Right. And so what he did was he just became the person that he'd always dreamed about. He became the consultant, learning about everything he needed to know. And, there wasn't the internet back then, not that much. So he's just like going out and networking like crazy. And I think for me, what I saw was that there were times when making that change were really hard for my parents. And for me too, I thought that change was hard. Like everybody else had been put through school by my parents, but when it came to me, that wasn't going to happen. I had to make it happen on my own. So, but what was great was I learned that I totally could create my world. And to get to your question, I think the thing that is my quest is to show people how to make change more easily. That's really what I do, whether I'm using a picture or whether I'm running a team session or whether I'm showing people how to run better meetings or whether I'm just like getting online and telling people, hey, you're in education, Stephen Mulder, you're doing fantastic things in Reno, Nevada, or, people who write me, it doesn't go through a filter. It comes right to me and I write back because that's who I'm connected to, whether you live in China or Korea or you live in Africa or you live right around the corner. I want to make it easier for you to make change and know that you deserve the life that you want to live in right now, and you can make it happen.
Yeah. As you were talking, I was just thinking about the people who I really admire. And I think we just see them as separate, like they're not in our world. So I remember when I was at university in 1991, I think, there was basketball on the television. And, basketball is not a big sport in the UK. It's become bigger. Yeah. And there was this guy, his name was, Michael Jordan. And I was looking at this guy, I was going, wow, there's something pretty unique about this gentleman. What is it? And then I became fascinated by him and his story. And, everyone has a story, right? And, he wasn't even picked for his school team. He was dropped and, loads of adversity, but he was the one who worked harder than everyone else. And then there's people like, there's lots of sports people I admire.
Right. And I would say, I was an actor. And so just the other day, Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda were on the Ellen show and I happened to catch it. And, Lily Tomlin, when I was an actor, that's who I wanted to be. She was my living, idea of what good theater was, no props on stage, multiple characters, all done by creating an environment in which people believe, oh, I'm living there, right? Yeah. And so I think those things are the things that inspire us to stay in the studio longer, to go out in the world and to apply what we do and our passion to master something.
I think
that they're like a little magnet, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's just getting started. There's a film coming out about Vincent van Gogh, and apparently he went through so much turmoil because people told him he was crazy. He wasn't born a painter, but he found it. But the turmoil that he went through, apparently that's why he cut his ear off. By the way, we do not need to cut our ears off, but
that's not going to happen here.
Just get started. And for me, mastery is that whole thing of just get started. So for me, I challenge myself when I get up in the morning to get downstairs as quickly as possible to start the things that when I start, I get inspired. I'm not sitting there waiting to be inspired. And I also just wanted to tell you something else. I saw the film about Laurel and Hardy that just came out with Steve Coogan and an American actor. I can't remember his surname. John C. Reilly, I think. Yeah. It is amazing. Unbelievable. And sometimes in the film, you kind of forget that you're actually watching actors. But the actors spent a few weeks becoming the characters and copying the dance of Laurel and Hardy. And then I became more interested in Laurel and Hardy afterwards. I went and looked at their life and these guys spent hours and hours. Laurel spent years understudy to Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
And apparently Charlie Chaplin didn't give any recognition to these people. But you're just wanting to get better, wanting to get better, wanting to get better. And maybe some of that is because of insecurity, maybe. Maybe there's nothing wrong with that. But if you just like the idea of just getting better to see where your skills can go, so we stop separating ourselves from these great people and realizing the difference between us and them is hard work.
Yeah.
You know, there is no substitute,
sure.
right? Is there a substitute for hard work? We're looking for, you know, a shortcut.
Oh, we'd love it. We'd love to have a shortcut.
Yeah.
But, you know, I haven't, you know, I was in here with the Comcast guy, and I'm drawing pictures, like frantically drawing. I'm like, yeah, these are illustrations for this guy. Oh, that's a terrible one. I'm going to have to clean it up in Photoshop, you know, and I'm scanning and doing all this stuff and thinking to myself, you know, this is life right here. This is how we get things done. Yeah, I could have an assistant that would be there and do it, but then what would that, you know, and I do have assistants in some areas where it's not my field of expertise, and I really trust the people that work with me. But some things I think it's just good for me to do it. It's good for me to stay in that mode of doing. So I remember, and I'm grateful for the things that get done for me by other people. I am so grateful to them.
Well, let's just go back, because when you said about mastery, and it's not about you, I think, again, that's something as I've gotten older, I've started to realize that it isn't about me, but then it's all about me, you know, in terms of if I'm inspired and I am humble and I want to get better, I believe I'm a great example to other people. You know, I want to be the first I want to be like, you know, the football player Cristiano Ronaldo. Even though there's a bit of controversy about him at the moment. You know, what I hear about him is that he's the first person to get there. He's the last person to, you know, to lead.
That's right.
And everyone thinks, well, you know, he's just talented. In fact, I remember when I was a director of a golf school with young golfers, all pretty good. I took world champion snooker player, this guy, Ronnie O'Sullivan. I took him to talk to the students. And one of the students said at the end, Ronnie said, has anyone got any questions? And this student said, well, Ronnie, you're just really lucky because you're really talented. And Ronnie felt rage, but he didn't say anything. He just, said,
wow.
You have no idea. I felt like attacking that kid because he has no idea how hard I practice. And it's not like necessarily we have to be, but I do think we need to be almost a little bit, have a healthy obsession.
I would say so too. So, you know, our neighbors have it over for dinner, and one of them's a pro cyclist, and I love him. I was out on the bike trail myself training, and he passed me, and, you know, he was going so fast, and I was like, oh my God. He turned around and saw me, came back and chatted. But I asked him, you know, like, I was telling him when I was racing, sometimes when I race, if I'm off the back, I stand a better chance of winning the race because I'm coming from behind. And he said, you know, I broke myself of that. And I realized that I always need to race as if I am the winner from the start line. And I thought, oh, what a tip right there. You know, you always want to act as if you are the winner at the very beginning, even if you're learning, you know. And he was very humble about it. He goes, in here, it was the mental game I had to win with myself in order to win the race. Yeah. And that is true too. When you're approaching anything, any new thing, you have to trick your mind into believing that you actually are really good at it, even if you're just beginning. That everything you do is an opportunity for you to improve, so that when you get to meeting someone who's important to you and could be a cornerstone in your career, that you talk about yourself and what you're doing with a certain kind of confidence, and you talk about your approach to mastery in whatever skill it is that you're developing.
I believe that this message is so important, and even though maybe we haven't been as specific in giving tips, and which we can quite clearly give to people, it's giving people a different perspective of the importance of this subject, because I think we all come alive when we're working towards getting better at something. You know, last century, one of the greatest books was The Psychology of Happiness. But even the guy who wrote that, Martin Seligman, realizing that life satisfaction, which is how they measured happiness, has not gone up yet. And he realizes, hang on, maybe we got this wrong, that it's not about happiness, it's about flourishing. It's about, his acronym is PERMA, PERMA, which we've discussed before, about positivity, engagement, relationships, meaning, and achievement, actually achieving something. Human beings love to, your room's in a mess, so you tidy it up and you have that achievement. Or you change your bedding and you get into bed and you've got clean sheets. It's an achievement. But what an achievement to work towards something so that, and this is again something I heard from somebody else, is about hell would be coming to the end of your life and meeting the person that you could have been, meeting that person and that person going, hi, it's me. And that person isn't going to die like you are because they've still got more living to do. And I thought, whoa.
Right. Yeah. And I think too, it's part of it is that, do you want to just stay where you are? Because that's your prerogative. That's spiritual freedom. You have the freedom to be and do whatever you want. And so you can stay right where you are. And that for some people is okay.
Yeah, of
but
course.
What are you brought here and meant to do that will further the world or the consciousness in the world in such a way that you feel like that was your mark? That's what you did. And I think part of that is finding a way to connect your passion with some kind of service. What is that? How can you serve the world better with what it is that you love to do? And connecting those two things, and then practicing the holy hell out of them and doing it such that you become, you learn about mastering master.
I think, you hit a great point there around the whole thing of, it's not like we should all be massively driven to achieve things, especially if we don't enjoy what we're actually doing. For me, it is that is where the secret sauce is. And I'm actually enjoying what I'm doing. And we all have that chance. And I hope this podcast has been, it's been great for me personally. I've made some notes down here. Patti, was there anything else that you'd like to finish on, and anything you'd like to share with people as we bring this subject to a close? I know we'll come back to it. We are we do this for one reason. We want to inspire you, for you to be creative, for you to do whatever it takes for you to enjoy your life more.
And I would just say this one thing, just, know that you're meant to do something here in the world, that you exist because you have something to bring. And then when you find that thing that you'd like to experiment with, then have the discipline to continue to do it until you figure out how to do it well, how to master it.
Yeah. Well, listen, make sure you let us know with these podcasts. Feel free to share them, make a comment. We'd love to hear from you on the Pete and Patti's Powerful Particulars Facebook page. And, for me, the biggest takeaway, again, is that whole thing of there's nothing better, that sweet feeling of just knowing. And I think also, Patti, that sometimes we don't realize that we're getting better at things until a way down the line. And then we kind of realize, oh, wow, I'm so much better at doing this than I was. And that's because that you put the work in. So, Patti.
And you need to celebrate that.
Yes. Patti, tell our listeners where they can find out about you and where they can get your book from. And
if you go to my website, upyourcreativegenius.com, that's a great place to go. And I'm on Facebook, Instagram, all the Twitter, all of the channels there. And, I'm just about to, I've got some classes that you can join in and learn how to do things. So if you want to become a master at drawing your future and show other people how to do it, you can come and join me in that experience.
I would definitely go and check Patti out. And one of the things I would encourage everyone to see that we're working on right now is go to mi365elite.me. That's mi365elite.me/case-study. I'll just say that once more. That's mi365elite.me/case-study. and just go and see what coaching, is all about. Because the role of a coach, which Patti is, and as I am, it's to take people from where they are to a better place. So thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this podcast, and we will see you next time for another Pete and Patti's Powerful Particulars podcast. You say that, please.
Pete and Patti's Powerful Particulars podcast. Can't wait to be with you again, Pete, and you too, audience.
Lots of love. Bye-bye.